Listen, I'm gonna be honest. When I was younger, I was really prideful. I would see other people even walking out of Walmart and just assume that I was better than them. Maybe, maybe it wasn't totally without reason. I mean, I was a pretty smart kid and I liked to read a lot. But one of the stories that I would read as a kid was called The King and the Hawk. It was about a young but wise king who had just defeated his enemies and decided to take a hunting trip as a vacation. He took along his hunting hawk that had been gifted to him when he was only 14. He'd grown up with this hawk, and each looked out for the other. They had become a deadly hunting team over the years. However, this time they weren't as lucky. They spent 2 days without finding any prey, and the king was getting tired. One afternoon, in the heat of the day, the king had given up and decided to just find a drink of water. He walked along till he arrived at a cliff with a few drops of water falling down the rocks. He pulled out his cup and slowly filled it. But when he raised the cup to his lips, his trusted hawk swooped down and knocked the cup out of his hand. The king was taken aback, but he patiently refilled his cup. Again, the hawk knocked the cup out of his hand. The king picked up the cup again and filled it up, but this time he had a hand on the hilt of his sword. When he raised the cup, the hawk again swooped down, but the king was ready. He drew his sword and killed his companion when it knocked his cup away. He decided to climb the cliff to get to the source of the water, but when he arrived at the top, he saw a shocking sight. The water had come from a small pond, and in the pond was a poisonous, dead snake, whose blood had poisoned the water. He realized that his hawk had been saving him from his own folly, but he had assumed the worst about his friend. His assumptions had killed the hawk. That scared me. I started to realize that assumptions can be so dangerous, and I decided to try to do better. And the truth is, we all make assumptions about each other. The very instant we see someone new, we make a judgment call about them before even introducing ourselves. And this has become a huge problem in the US, judging people based on skin color, gender, age, socioeconomic status, and many, many other things. In fact, we've gotten to a place where we don't even have to meet someone to hate their guts. All we need is a simple comment on the internet, a news story, or even seeing a bumper sticker on their car. Even as Christians, we often don't care about others' motives. We just profile them and even condemn them because of our limited view of their actions.
Amen.
After reading the Sermon on the Mount, I realized that this is a big problem that I struggle with and that our whole world struggles with. But the Lord judges. Shouldn't we be allowed to as well? Isn't that a thing that Christians just do? Well, in Matthew 7, 1-2, it says, "Judge not, that you not be judged. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you." Now, judgment does have two meanings. There's condemnation, and there's discernment. These verses caution strongly against condemnation. After all, it isn't our place to condemn others. That's God's job. But too often, there are people in serious need who take desperate measures to get what they need. But we don't care. We jump to say that they are sinners. But we don't know the full story. We are so quick to speak our mind about others, so quick to condemn, to chide the sin. But we aren't quick to listen, to hear the story of others. But the question does arise, is there a place to chide our siblings, our brothers and sisters? Well, in verses 3-5 of Matthew 7, it says, "Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye,' when there's a log in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye." In this analogy, Jesus is again denouncing condemnation, but notice that he doesn't dismiss the idea of correcting our brothers and sisters. After all, if we love each other, if we are truly our brother's keeper, we have a duty to help them. We can't love people by letting them go down a wrong path. In Matthew 18:15, Jesus says, "If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother." Clearly, it isn't a sin to simply correct our brothers and sisters. But that again raises another question. How can we correct without judging or making assumptions about others? Well, a lot of times when teaching, Jesus will tell his audience what not to do before telling them how to do it. He tells them how not to pray before saying, "This then is how you pray." Here in Matthew 7, he does the same thing. He denounces judgment, but then says, this is how you should correct. And he says, first remove the log from your own eye. First remove the log from your own eye. I'll tell you right now, that's confusing. Like, what in the world? I can see clearly. There isn't anything in my eye. In fact, I have perfect vision. One time I went to the eye doctor. I went through all the exercises. I read all the little lines. I used each eye one at a time, and I could see clearly. In fact, the doctor even told me I had 20/20 vision. I saw all the people who were in there, and in my arrogance, I felt pretty good. But then the doctor said that I had an issue with focusing. She said that I needed to go through vision therapy to be well again. And I'll tell you, I was annoyed. I went to vision therapy with kids half my age. My pride was hurt. How could this happen? I could see clearly. I could see that everyone around me had all these vision issues. I could see that I wasn't meant to be there. I could see the specks in everyone's eyes. But I deserved to be there because I couldn't see the log in my own. I couldn't see the pride. I was so angered by my pride being hurt that I couldn't see my own issues. We all have logs in our eyes. We all have issues, even if we can't see them. Of course, it is still our responsibility to correct our brothers, but we have to do so in humility. And here's the big one. We have to do so with love. Love. Jesus' entire ministry is about love. The greatest command is to love God and love each other. We can help our brothers with love. We can help our brothers knowing that we are broken and that we need Jesus too. If we want to correct others, we have to be careful. We can't judge them and make assumptions, but we have to recognize our own issues, try to fix them, and approach our brothers with good motives, wanting them to change to be the best that they can be. We have to love. God doesn't call us to condemn others. God doesn't call us to let our brothers go on in their sin. God calls us to walk the narrow path in between. So when you do need to remove the speck from someone's eye, do so with humility, and remember to reflect on your own motives. Make sure they are pure and loving. Make sure that you only want the best for your brother. And above all, remember that you and your brother are both sinners, but are saved by God's grace. Maybe this next week you will meet someone that you're inclined to judge. If so, I encourage you to remember that you may not know their full story. Maybe you'll see a brother or sister in sin. If so, I encourage you to look at yourself first and correct yourself first before approaching them with love and proper motives. Maybe this next week you'll find yourself messing up, maybe judging others or approaching others without love. If so, I want to remind you that Jesus' love covers over all our mistakes, and Lord willing, we will have another day to do the right thing.